Joining us now is former Trump EPA Transition Team Advisor Steve Malloy and former Trump Interior Secretary David Bernhardt. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the show. Good to see you both. Steve, I want to start with you. Your thoughts on using the strategic reserves and how impactful could this possibly be?
Well, as you pointed out, Rob, it's just a drop in the bucket. 50 million barrels of oil is ridiculous. It's about 2.5 days worth of our consumption. The price of oil is a global commodity. On a daily basis, humans burn about 100 million barrels of oil per day. So 50 million barrels from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve is just a waste of time. It's a waste of effort. It's not going to do anything. And then on top of this futile gesture, he's going to look into whether oil companies are gouging prices. It's just the market price. Yeah. There's a lot of demand. We're coming out of COVID. We need more oil. Unfortunately, Joe Biden has taken action to shut down U.S. oil production.
Yeah, it's a very simple equation here. He's blaming just COVID, and he's forgetting to blame the stupid policies he's enacted to exacerbate a problem that we were going to have anyway. David, he also claimed that big gas companies, he effectively just blames them and not himself. Take a listen.
The price of gasoline in the wholesale market has fallen by about 10% over the last few weeks. Companies are pocketing the difference as profit. That's unacceptable. And that's why I've asked the Federal Trade Commission to consider whether potentially illegal and anti-competitive behavior in the oil and gas industry is causing higher prices for consumers.
So right after those remarks, he tweeted this out: "I will not stand by while oil companies engage in profiteering at the expense of American families." So dissect all that for us.
Well, let me say first that I think that's a very common move of Democratic members of Congress. The minute the price of oil goes high, they tend to blame the gas companies. I've received many of those letters over the course of my career. And so it just shows that he's been in Washington a really long time. But more importantly, it also shows that he's just afraid of the blame. But you don't have to look to the right side of the aisle these days for criticism of his policy. The chairman of the Senate Energy Committee, Joe Manchin of West Virginia, this afternoon said basically this policy is the result of not having an all of the above energy policy. This is nothing more than a Band-Aid, and that the lack of a policy represents a clear and present threat to American energy and the American economy. And that's not somebody on the right side of the aisle, that's somebody on the left. And I think that tells you just how radically far these folks have gone and gotten themselves in such a hole by killing Keystone, by stopping leasing on public lands, begging OPEC, and now taking our Strategic Petroleum Reserve itself and adding to a mandated sale by Congress. And it's just short-sighted, incompetent, and inexplicable if you're the American consumer.
It's ridiculous. It's terrible politics. It's a complete lack of common sense, and it's assuming that people are too stupid to figure out what they've done, which is what's really sad about it. As they sit there and scream and yell about oil companies and pointing every other direction, people see what's going on. It's obvious. Steve and David, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on. Good to see you both.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Coming up, New York City.